Welcome to another Travel Tuesday. Today I'm going to tell you about the trip to Russia that me and some classmates did in high school, strangely enough, with our history teacher. We were about 15 students and it was a school organized trip. A lot of other classes in our school went to other places, but we thought, well, why not Russia? It's close enough to Sweden, so why not? So it was in 2005 in spring, I believe. I'm very bad at really remembering when something happened. I have a very bad temporal memory, so I think it was in spring 2005. So this would have been before the Bulgaria trip. Um, we first flew to Stockholm and from there to St. Petersburg, where we would spend 3 or 4 days. And the trip started off pretty badly because in transit, like from when you board the plane until um, we landed and were supposed to present our passports, one of my friend's passports disappeared somewhere in that time span. And he was not allowed to enter Russia because he didn't have the official documentation, obviously. So he had to get a temporary passport and fly back to Sweden on the next flight back. And so the trip didn't start off very well. However, the rest of the friends group actually managed to have a good time anyway, and it was quite the experience. We, as Swedish teenagers, we weren't really used to how it works with grocery stores and food and like how anything there really works. My mom had taught me a little bit of Russian words before we went because she's pretty good at Russian. Um, or she is good at Russian. She'd tell you she's not. She really is. And also taught me how to read the Cyrillic alphabet so that I could spot like simple things like water and food, restaurants, things like that. Quite important words and rather basic. So, um, still, it was pretty hard to figure out how it works because food was, and even water, like in St. Petersburg, water quality is really, really bad because it was built on a swamp, on moorland, so it really is not good water quality at all. But instead, you buy large, like gallon buckets of water, or 10 liters or something like that, 5 liters maybe, in the grocery store. And while we found stores, it was hard to communicate because they didn't understand my accent and with words like voda, which I think is water, but obviously with my Swedish accent, it didn't work at all, and it resorted to pointing at we want that thing, we want the water. So that's what we got. Um, and finding food was also really difficult, but we eventually found out like where to spot where the McDonald's and the Pizza Hut would be. So we kind of subsisted off that, except for the hotel provided breakfast that we got. So the first day in St. Petersburg was quite strange, partly because, well, the passport debacle, and then we also had to find the hotel and find our hotel rooms and everything like that. So the hotel was kind of deceptive. It looked very, very small when we got there. The front was very narrow, and the lobby area was also very small. And then on the second, third, and fourth floors, there it got enormous. It was labyrinthian and gigantic. It was really hard finding your way around, and there were different styles of architecture in the different places, and uh, the rooms were kind of spread out. So going from I shared a room with one girl, and going to my friend's room, like it was really far, and also it was really far from the communal bathrooms. Um, so and the like I said, the water quality was obviously bad both in taps and in the shower and stuff like that. So it kind of felt like you were cleaner before you went into the shower than when you left. Um, but obviously, if you're in a place for 3 days, you usually have to shower sometime. It was not a pleasant experience, and it was very far to these bathrooms. And in one place, the carpet was so infused with dust that even I, who have no respiratory problems like asthma or anything, even I had problems breathing in that hallway. Like it was so bad. It was so saturated with dust. Uh, but in general, it was quite interesting to notice and learn about that type of thing. In a lot of the time we got to explore the city. We went around in groups, and sometimes we did things together with the entire class. Like we visited the Winter Palace, the Hermitage. It was gorgeous. It was so beautiful, and the art collection that they have there, it's completely amazing. So if you have any type of interest in that kind of thing, or you get the chance to visit St. Petersburg, I really recommend that thing. Visit the Hermitage, visit the palaces because it's absolutely gorgeous. I'll put a picture up here of what it looks like and what you can expect to see. Like they had vases that were carved out of solid pieces of malachite, which is this white green striated type of rock. It's very popular in jewelry, and it was popular back then. And it was massive. And yeah, I love that type of thing. And we also, one of the days in St. Petersburg, I think one of the first days, before we had figured out where to find the food, we were hungry. Like it was early afternoon. We had eaten breakfast, but like we'd walked around for quite a bit. And I recognized a word that to me looks like pectopa. I'll show you up here again. And it means restaurant, like restaurant. And we thought food. So we went in, and it turned out to be quite fancy. Not expensive in Swedish terms, because in Sweden food is quite expensive. Uh, but it was so luxurious, and it was one of the best beef stroganoff I've ever had. It was so good. Um, then, after we had been in St. Petersburg and seen all the things that were interesting there. Oh, also, don't forget to check out the subway when you're in St. Petersburg, the escalators there, they're fascinating because of the swamp thing. Like the subway is actually built underneath the swamp, so even further down, and then the city obviously is on top. So when you go down the escalator, if you turn around, you can barely see the top, and then you can barely see where it ends down there. It's kind of terrifying and also exhilarating. Like it's a really cool thing to see. And when they built these, they wanted to make sure that they were really nice. Like a lot of people spend a lot of time in transit, so all the subway stations are. I don't know if they do it nowadays, but they were really nice. Like they had chandeliers, they had artwork, like everything. Not just gray concrete, blah blah. It was actually really gorgeous. Some of them have had mosaics, I believe. Um, so yeah, there were a lot of different themes in the different stations, but definitely there were things to see in each and every one of them. And so we were going to Moscow after that. So we took the night train to Moscow. It was one of the most insane parties I've ever been to. A class of 15 teenagers on a night train in Russia. The girl I shared a room with, we bought a bottle of tequila together, and you can guess the rest. Like, it was kind of shared between the rest of the class as well. Liquor laws in Russia are obviously quite different from in Sweden. I think I was maybe 17 at that time. Possibly I turned 18. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was anyway. It was really, it was kind of crazy. So we arrive in Moscow. Everyone is hungover, um, except one of my friends who doesn't drink. He's not interested. Never was. So the rest of us are completely hungover, and they take us on a bus trip, like a bus tour throughout Moscow. I think I slept for most of that trip, and like I felt awful about that, and I also felt awful really physically. But like when you're that hungover, there's really nothing you can do. It's really hard to focus on anything that's interesting. Anyway, I learned a little bit about Moscow, and we got to see. The first thing was the hotel. It felt like a five-star luxury hotel in contrast to the one in St. Petersburg. The shower actually made you feel clean. The floors didn't creak and break apart when you walked on them. It was quite nice, and felt like luxury, even though it was probably just a three-star hotel. But yeah, it had modern standards. And one of the days we went to the circus. Um, some of the things kind of made me uncomfortable because they had chimps that were trained, and when you get to that level of sentience in a creature, I don't really find it ethical to have them in circuses because the training is very intense. Like dolphins, orcas, I don't think they belong in captivity like that. That left a little bit of a better taste in my mouth. But there were also clowns and acrobats. They're obviously really good, um, really talented, and like in general, it was an interesting experience. Obviously, we also went to the Red Square because it's kind of, if you go to Moscow, you kind of, it's one of the biggest tourist spots. You just can't really miss it. The cathedral that's there, it's this fantasy looking thing that it's quite the thing to see. Um, like during the communist era, I think religion was banned, so it kind of backlashed now afterwards, and there are a lot of Catholicism that's reawakened, so to say, in Russia. And this old cathedral, obviously, this cathedral then it ties into that, and they have icons and they have lots of art in there. Oh, and the outside as well is really, really amazing looking. During while we were there, Lenin was being restored. Like he was re-embalmed, so we couldn't really see him, but that would have been really interesting to see. I've heard a lot of stories about what it smells like in there, and what it's like to see something like that. But yeah, we didn't get the opportunity. That was the first time I visited Russia. I visited again in 2010, and that was a completely different experience because it was in a different area of Russia, and that story is also coming up. So that was my visit to Russia with my high school class when I was 17 or 18. Um, it was quite the journey. It was quite the experience. I saw a lot of interesting things and experienced yet again a culture that I'd never seen before. And I hope to stay tuned for more stories about trips I've done, and I hope to see you next time. If you have any destinations that you think I should go to in the future, say it down below. Where should I visit? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!